Hello and welcome to the Beach Travel Wine podcast, where this week Lyle and I are in the second biggest city in Croatia, Split. Split has everything you need for the perfect holiday. Clear, warm water for swimming, idyllic islands, forest walks, history, food and wine, and stunning views. And for those who like it, a great nightlife. We share the fun hike we did through a forest to a secluded beach area, a speedboat tour to gorgeous Croatian islands, all about the history and amazing architecture of the 1,700-year-old Empress Palace and all the best places to eat and drink throughout the plazas and squares in the old town. We had a jam-packed 4 days in Split and loved every minute and would highly recommend it as a great spot to stay when in Croatia. Once again, if you want to see all the pictures or find out more about Split, then click the link in the podcast description on the player you're listening on now to episode 113. Good morning, Lyle.
Good morning, Leonida.
How are you today?
I'm spectacular, thank you.
That's good. As I said in the intro, today we're off to Split. Split is the second biggest city in Croatia.
Yes, it's historically known as Spalato, is the second largest city in Croatia, the largest city in Dalmatia, and the largest city on the Croatian coast.
So it's got to be bigger than Dubrovnik then, if it's this.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
It lies on the eastern shore of the Adriatic Sea and is spread over a central peninsula and its surroundings. The city is linked to the Adriatic Islands and the Apennine Peninsula.
There's a lot of islands close and a lot of boat trips. You know, we did one, which we're going to talk about, and some friends of ours did another. But we left Zadar.
Yeah, 135k to Split.
But we shared a taxi with some friends, Kobe and Kev, and took us to the bus station.
That's right, yeah.
And I'm glad we bought our tickets ahead because the bus was full, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of people doing the circuit as us from Zadar to Split, but it wasn't a very long bus ride.
No.
And we arrived at the bus station. The bus station is right there near the old town, and it's right opposite the
ferry terminal.
So it was probably a 100-meter walk to our apartment. Maybe.
Yeah, but there was people everywhere.
Yeah,
because it was because it's centrally with the bus station and the ferry terminal. But it wasn't far at all. And actually, as we walk towards the apartment, there's really only one car park area, and that only has availability for about 100 cars. So if you're driving there, be aware of that. Because inside the old town itself, it's pedestrian only.
Yeah, it is pedestrian only. And also right next to the bus station and on our walk to our apartment was fresh food markets, flower markets, and they had obviously touristy stuff and that sort of thing as well. So lots of people wandering around that area too, yeah?
Yeah. It's, as Leanne just said, we caught the bus, but there's obviously other ways to get there. You can't fly direct from Australia to Split, although there's 36 international airlines fly into Split. There's a ferry. There are round ferries from Ancona in Italy, with higher frequencies in summer months. There's the bus, and there's regular services from Munich and Trieste, and also the train. And that's basically from anywhere in Europe, really. Okay. So it's a bit of you'd have to call it a transport hub.
Sure. We were talking about going to Croatia. A lot of people sort of talk about like Split is more residential, more industrial. So I didn't really know what to expect, but I think it has a younger vibe. And it has the history, which we're going to talk about. There's a lot of people go there because it has a nightlife and a lot of the boat tours and stuff. So I think it just has a very different vibe to other places.
Look, as we drove through the I suppose the newer part of Split, there was a lot of industrialised area and all that sort of thing. But once you basically get to the old town, it totally changes.
Yeah, we loved it. Instantly, actually.
Yeah, the first impression was. Yeah. Wow, it was incredibly beautiful.
So our apartment was good too?
Yeah, that was the La Porta luxury rooms.
Yeah, and once again, I know we keep saying it, we're up a lot of stairs, 77 to be exact, I counted. And that the guy who runs it, and no lift, of course, Tony, he meets everybody downstairs and carries all their luggage upstairs because he knows that that's, difficult for most of us to do that.
I don't know how many times he apologised and told us that the building was classified and they couldn't put lifts in and that sort of thing.
Oh.
But he was excellent. He was waiting for us, so we didn't have to. There was no panic whether there was going to be someone to take us.
Yeah.
But also the fact that he carried the bags up, and when we left, he carried the bags down.
And we walked into the room. It wasn't big, but we had like a little sitting area. We had a fridge. We had a balcony. Now, that was my favourite part, obviously, because you walk out the balcony and all you can see right down beneath you is the fresh food markets. And then just over to your right a little bit was the view of the Silver Gate, it's called, one of the entrances into the old town, or the Diocletian's Palace, and the clock tower there. And it was special, early morning, middle of the day, but particularly at sunset and nighttime when the lights came on. There were so many little birds in Split. Every time we walked out, literally hundreds of these little, I know they're not swallows, but they're like little swallows, just flying all the time, round and round and round. They were so chirpy too. And then there are also the biggest seagulls you've ever seen in your life live in Croatia. And there were about 3 or 4 of them that used to sit in, like, one sat on top of the cross on the church and one sat on top of the clock tower. They looked like they were surveying their people, like they were the emperor of the Diocletian's Palace. So it was a little bit entertaining on our balcony. I just loved it. So I'd have a cup of tea in the morning and a glass of wine at night. Yeah.
For some reason, I remember Tony saying, because I think when we first got there, you said, has it got a balcony? And he said, yes, it's got a balcony. And it's one of very few balconies. And like the actual view from that apartment was, I don't think we could have got a better apartment.
Yeah, it was
I've
great,
got to be honest. We could actually see into the palace area. And as you said, the backdrop to the Adriatic Ocean was just spectacular. And we did have most nights a nice glass of wine.
Well, because right downstairs, Tony, one of the first things we asked is, where can we buy a bottle of wine? And he said, well, there's 2 shops right downstairs, so we stopped there every day. One of the other things, just quickly, about this accommodation was, as soon as you entered the little foyer, because I think there were like 4 rooms, as soon as you entered the little foyer where you could go into your room, there was a water cooler. I thought that was a nice touch. It's quite hot, and you walk up the stairs and you're exhausted, and you just walk straight in and get a cold glass of water. So that was pretty cool.
And the apartments did have air conditioning.
Oh yeah, it was great. Yeah, for sure. You want to give us some features of Split, like?
Well, probably the main features are obviously the Diocletian Palace. You've got
just let me tell people who think, what the hell are you talking about when you say Diocletian? Diocletian was the name of an emperor. So we're going to tell you about the palace, but the old town is actually the Diocletian's Palace. So it's just
there's an interconnecting tunnel from the Diocletian Palace to the Riva Promenade.
Yep. That's one of the features, is the Riva Riva Riva.
Yeah, and that basically is a whole lot of restaurants and cafes that are right on the edge of the
if you've seen any
edge of the Adriatic Sea. Yeah, if you see pictures of Split, that's what you see.
And it's got the beautiful tile floor. It's got as you say, the cafes and restaurants that sort of spill out, and some of them have got pretty flowers and they're very glamorous. And then there's like palm trees, like a walkway that you could just line with these big palm trees. And then there's a little bit more promenade, and then there's the water, and it's magnificent, isn't it?
Yeah, and on the edge of that concrete platform are all the portable tour booths.
Where you can walk your boat tours.
And the tours actually depart and come back from that area, so it's not far at all. Then you've got the gardens.
Yep.
And they're beautiful. When I say gardens, it's a forest park.
Yeah, we're going to tell you all about that in a minute.
Okay, and then you've got, there's a little area just outside the walls, and obviously the beaches, and then you've got the island tours. And we decided we were going to do a bit of a recce. And
we got there sort of afternoonish. Yeah, so we decided we were going to do a little walk into the palace and find somewhere to have dinner and just get our bearings, right?
Yeah. So are you going to let me do my history, or should I wait further, or? because we don't want to get ahead of ourselves,
We
do
don't want to
we?
get ahead of ourselves. And I'm sure everybody's sort of saying, like, when is Lyle going to get to his history?
Thank you.
So, yes, you can do your history. But what I was saying, we got there and we just told you the main features, but the main feature is obviously the Diocletian's Palace, which is quite historic, Lyle.
Yes. Oh, what a lead in, Leonita. Thank you. Okay. Now I'm going to read this. So the city was founded as the Greek colony of Aspalathos in the 3rd and 2nd century BC. In 305 AD, it became the site of the palace of the Roman Emperor Diocletian. It drifted into the sphere of the Republic of Venice and the Kingdom of Croatia, with the Byzantines retaining nominal suzerainty. Now, that word, I looked at that and I thought, I couldn't believe that. What does that mean? It means that's the right of the country to partly control another. Venice eventually prevailed, and during the early modern period, Split remained a Venetian city, a heavily fortified outpost surrounded by Ottoman territory. As Venice fell to Napoleon, the Treaty of Campo Formia rendered the city to the Habsburg monarchy. In 1805, the Peace of Presburg added it to the Napoleonic Kingdom of Italy, and in 1806 it was included in the French Empire, becoming part of the Illyrian provinces. In 1813, it was eventually granted to the Austrian Empire following the Congress of Vienna, where the city remained part of the Austrian Kingdom of Dalmatia until the fall of the Austrian-Hungary in 1918, the end of the First World War, and the formation of Yugoslavia. In World War II, the city was annexed by Italy, then liberated by the partisans after the Italian capitulation in 1943. It was then reoccupied by Germany, which granted it its puppet independent state of Croatia. The city was liberated by the partisans in 1944 and was included in the post-war socialist Yugoslavia as part of the Republic of Croatia. In 1991, Croatia succeeded from Yugoslavia amid the Croatian War of Independence. Like all these cities, they were conquered and then taken back, and then conquered and taken back. But so that's the deal with their history.
So lots of history there, and as I said, we'll come back to it. But the first day we got up, like our first full day, we wanted to do a walk. We wanted to go to the forest park and go and check out there's some beaches. We got a map when we arrived, and you could see all around the forest park there were beaches that you could get to. So put on our walking gear, but before we did that, we went and had breakfast. And part of our staying apartment, we had vouchers for breakfast, and they were at a local cafe called Luxor, which was in one of the main squares that we're going to talk about. So it was pretty flash, sort of brekkie, wasn't it?
Oh, look, the building itself was like being back in the 3rd century BC. It was unbelievably beautiful. Well, I mean, probably a renovated building because the frescoes on the ceiling and it was just.
But the food was good too.
Yeah, it was
fresh orange juice.
It was
coffee,
spectacular.
And I think you had the same brekkie every day. You got to choose from. Anyway, you can go and sit there on the steps outside as well. It's quite a popular spot.
Well, if you remember, they had live entertainment.
Yeah, they had the Roman gladiators
but then also music.
Yeah.
At night. Yeah. Remember we sat there? Yeah. Started at 8:00, and they'd have it. So 7 nights a week they had entertainment there. So
anyway, we'll come back to that square, but we started our day with a really hearty breakfast, which is what we needed because we took off on this walk. Now, I think it's about a 5K walk in total. You walk all the way along the promenade and get to the entrance into the Mahjong Forest Park. But the first thing you've got to do, sorry, everybody, here I go again, is walk up 300 stairs. But the stairs, they're wide. They're wide as in the steps themselves are wide, but there's plenty of width for people to walk past each other, and there's plenty of places to stop, isn't there?
Yeah,
viewing platforms.
Yeah, I think there was lots of landings.
That's it. That's what I was looking
landings, for. Landings with the steps and, as you said, the viewpoints. So it really, although there's 300 stairs, it's pretty well designed to make it easier. Now The actual area of the park is 297 hectares, so it's quite a large forest park, and the height is 178 metres.
Right. So when you get to the top of the stairs, there's a restaurant area and another landing area viewpoint. And from there, the views are spectacular. I mean, the higher you go, obviously, the more spectacular they are. But from there, you look straight down over
on
the
promenade,
right? And then to the left, you've got that massive mountain range, which is like the moonscape, which is stunning. And then to the right of the promenade, you've got the Adriatic Sea and all the boats, and you can see the island. So it is definitely worth, just if you don't want to do the whole hike thing, going up those stairs for that view, because it was spectacular, wasn't it?
Oh, look, it was it was certainly
wow.
well worth it. And
after the stairs, there's like a path that you go up. So from there, that's really when the hike starts. So they've got gravel paths, and as you're walking up the gravel path, it's sort of up an incline, and you're walking past olive groves and under cypress pine trees. And then you come to another, like quite a way up, another clearing which has the small church. So that's a fair way up as well. So that's St. Nicholas's Church, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that was built in 1219.
Yes.
And when we say a church, it's probably
a little cathedral.
It's a tiny little chapel almost.
Yeah.
So why they built it there, I'm not sure. Yeah. But it's typical of European cities. They seem to be able to find the highest part of their area and build a church.
I guess it sorts the real believers from the non-believers.
It was a little bit like Mexico. They said the higher the pyramids, the closer they were to God.
Oh, I see.
Maybe. I don't know.
So from the little St. Nicholas's Church, you could go two different ways. You could continue on the gravel path, which is what we did, or you could go up some more stairs right up to the summit, and that's the top of the hill. So you could see it wasn't that much further up, and then you can continue from there down the other side.
And Lan made an executive decision that we weren't going that far.
Well, also, I was looking at the map because there's all these different tracks all over the mountain. It's actually we hiked through that mountain about an hour and a half before we actually got to our destination. So there was a track we're walking along the water, and then we ran into this guy, and I said, look, we're trying to head to a beach because we were sort of heading straight ahead. And he said, look, you're probably better off to go this way. So then we walked all the way across the mountain through more beautiful forest. And do you know what? After that guy, we didn't see another person. And then like about another, I don't know, half an hour later, we ran into, some other people that were, trying to find which way to go. There's different paths, and it's just so quiet and so peaceful right there in Split, where it's normally so busy. So as I said, we walked around for a good hour and a half, up paths, down paths, through olive groves, watching the views the whole time.
And just be aware, some of the side trail, the paths are
a bit rough.
Yeah. They're quite rocky, so you've got to have to be careful with the old ankles there. Yeah. Let's put it this way. You need some decent joggers or...
Yeah, it's not just a nice walk over to the beach.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be wearing flip-flops or sandals.
Okay, so then we've arrived at the beach, and it was the Varbeni Beach Bar. And so we stopped and had a cold drink there.
Because it was bloody hot.
It was really hot, and there was hardly anybody there, so we didn't mind that at all. And then we noticed that you could actually hire chairs, and so we hired a couple of beach chairs, and we didn't need an umbrella because there was shade. And I actually felt like I was in the Mamma Mia movie. It just had the pavers like that and the cypress trees, and the water was clear. Hopped in and had a swim. We sat there for quite a few hours just reading and summoning up the energy to walk back. But luckily, we didn't have to walk back up over the hill. We skirted all the way around the edge of the water. Oh, the views were magnificent the whole way, weren't they?
Yeah. And what we didn't know is you can actually catch a local bus to the beach. Yeah. But look, it was a way. I thought it was great. The cafe basically had cold drinks. You could get a beer there, and I think we had a soft drink because it was a bit early. But yeah, look, it was beautiful. And then we, as you say, we walked back.
So that was almost a full day, basically. And I think that's one of the places when you go to Split, a lot of people miss because it's all of the boat trips and such. But I'd certainly recommend that if you just want to get away into nature and enjoy a bit of a secluded beach area.
Sure. Well, on the way back, we did see a lot of people in, as you said, secluded beach areas having a swim and that sort of thing.
Obviously locals, because they've got their bikes there. It's hard to explain. It's sort of on the peninsula, but on the other side, away from Split. So it's very private.
And then when we got back to the promenade, because that's the entrance to it and the exit, that's where we had a beer, because we deserved it, at the river promenade and at the Bar Fro, was it called?
Cafe Bar Fro.
Cafe Bar Fro. Yeah. You can't say one's better than the other. They're all there.
Well,
they're all got the same view.
The thing is, the restaurants there are more expensive because that's where people like to go, but certainly fine for a drink if you want the view. We did do that a couple of times.
It said, look, and I remember, I'm probably going a bit early, but I remember the day tour guy that we had said that it's not only for the tourists but the locals. It's very much a people watching area. And
yes,
what did he call it? He said something.
They say that they sit and drink coffee, like slowly. He said, famillo, little by little, sit and have long coffees.
Okay, yeah, I remember you saying that. And it is. That's just what it's like.
Yeah,
and the scenery is beautiful. You've got lots of young people
watching the boats come and go.
Yeah, and in that area too, at night time, that's where all the nightclubs are.
Yeah.
So
you did say that, but we didn't get there, did we?
No, we were smart. We stuck to our little balcony and having a glass of vino blanco.
Malvasia. All right, so next day we're up and we're on our walking tour. We decided that we were going to pay for one. We were approached when we're walking around, someone saying you could do a tour, and it was €30 each. And when I actually went and tried to book one, it was actually €24 each, I think it was. So it was cheaper to book it online. So I'm going to put a link to the tour we did because it was really good and it was a small tour. Now, you can do free walking tours, but, you're going to be with a group of anything from 30 plus people, and which is fine too, but we opted for the little small group one, and I think we had 8 people. I think they have a maximum of 10. And it was a nice mixed group of people, and that way you can all hear, you can all follow easily. And our guy was called Franco. He was a really interesting local guy, and I found his guiding was brilliant. And I just felt like I was fascinated because I don't think a lot of people who go to Split know really about what the old town is. And that's another thing I would highly recommend. Like, honestly, I mean, at one stage, like later in the day, we met with a group of English guys that were going to do a wine tour, and one of them said, "Oh, what's that old building?" I'm like, so you come all the way to Split and you have no idea that it was a palace for 1,700 years. So I think do yourself a favour and even if it's a free one, a couple of hours, just do a walking tour because there's so much history about this old town, and it was once a palace. Yes.
Yeah. Now Diocletian.
Yes.
Diocletian was actually the only Roman emperor to retire.
Yeah, he was a long-standing.
Yeah, he was the Roman emperor whose government and economic reform helped Rome recover from the crisis of the 3rd century.
Yeah, so he was a Roman emperor.
Yeah, reigning from 285 to 305, Diocletian split the Roman Empire in half and established the Tetrarchy, where he shared role with 3 co-emperors. And he was probably most famous for, obviously, this is when the Roman Empire was going from the pagan to the Christianity. So he was the emperor before that. And so he basically was known as the emperor that really got after and tried to destroy Christianity.
Okay. But can you tell us about the palace? Because he built it. He built this palace.
He did. And it's on 7.5 acres or 3 hectares. So it's pretty big.
This is one palace. Think about that.
Yeah. It's UNESCO World Heritage in 1979. Is an ancient palace built for the Roman emperor at the end of the 3rd century AD, which today forms about half of the old town. The structure is massive and more resembles a large fortress. About half of it was for Diocletian's personal use, and the rest housed the military garrison. The walls are about 20 metres high. The grand plan of the palace is an irregular rectangle measuring east 215 metres, north 175 metres, and south 182, with 16 towers projecting from the western, northern and eastern facades on the facades facing the mainland. Diocletian Palace is not simply a cultural monument, it is the only living monument in the world as approximately 3,000 people live inside this World Heritage Site. There are about 220 buildings within the palace boundaries.
Now, when you go in and you have a look, there's 4 gates. I think you probably tell us about the gates, but the one we started the walking tour was the Golden Gate. Now that was only for the emperor and his family to be able to go into. So the palace has 3 walls. So, and then the front of it actually opens onto the sea, onto the promenade. Now, and that was where Diocletian had like floor to ceiling windows with uninterrupted views of the ocean. And now there's an area there that was once, I guess, his living area that now is a restaurant. So you can actually go and sit where the emperor would have sat.
Yeah, I forgot that.
And had a meal. So, he was,
and that's directly above the promenade.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So when you look at the promenade from the sea and you see the photos looking back and you see, the ancient building, that was the Diocletian's living area. That was his lounge room, his dining area. Like what a smart guy. And he used to go there every summer to enjoy, and then he retired there.
Yeah.
Didn't he? And
Liam was right. There is 4 gates. There's the Golden Gate.
He said that with surprise, didn't he?
The Silver Gate.
Yes.
The Bronze Gate and the Iron Gate.
Yes.
Now, as you said, the guided tour started at the Golden Gate, and the guy was the way he described it, because there's 9 niches around this gate, which obviously when it was built had 9 statues, right? And then he went on to describe how, because the building's actually built out of limestone, and obviously there was a lot of marble, and the way he was describing it, and then on the entrances you would have coloured tiled facades. And I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm thinking, like, it's a wow now when you look at it now, but just imagine that the coloured tiles and the statues and it was just...
And look, and I haven't said it so far, and it's a miss of me, but if you want to see the photos that we took of Marjan Park and the beach, that was amazing. But around the old town and the Diocletian's Palace, just go to the play you're listening on now and click the link to 113, because once again, took lots of really good photos, and you'll get to see what we're talking about.
And close by the Golden Gate, there is the statue of Gregory of Nin. Now, Bishop Gregory is credited with keeping Croatian culture and language alive. So
it's a big statue.
Is 8 meters high.
Yeah, and he's also got a very shiny foot.
He has. They say if you rub the foot, it's for good luck.
Yeah. Well, I'll put a photo of that as well, because it is pretty impressive. But he's just outside the Golden Gate, isn't he?
Yeah, and basically what happened was with the Catholic Church, the Pope in Rome wanted all the services to be done in Latin. Bishop Gregory said, no, we're going to keep on doing it in Croatian.
So let's get back to the walking tour. We're out. We've gone through the Golden Gate. We've looked at all the niches. Then we came across the vestibule. Now, the vestibule is
a circular tower.
There we go.
With no roof.
Now, this is where you would wait to see the emperor. Well, it was like a big waiting room. But the day we were there was a group of singers. They're called Clapper, and they sing...
Capella. A cappella, is it?
A cappella, yeah.
A cappella,
so
that's right.
The day we got there, that they were singing, and this wasn't part of the walking tour, but what we did was we went up, like, I think there was 60-something steps inside the vestibule that you can go up and you can look down into it. And I actually recorded them singing, because the acoustics of that coming up through the vestibule was amazing, wasn't it? And I think nearly every day there's different groups of Clapper and other performers singing there, just because of obviously the acoustics as well. So that was amazing.
And did you know the word Clapper translates as group of friends?
No.
The theme in general celebrate love, wine, country and sea. So that's
like beach travel wine.
You said that, yes. Yes, very good. So
back to the walking tour.
Where the vestibule is, and we did go up, and I think it was $1, a euro to go up.
Yeah.
The views from the vestibule, across the city,
and also down over that square and the church tower.
Yeah, it was amazing, because the cathedral, which was right next to it, was that's Domnius.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. And then on the other side, you had the ocean. It was like
the mountain range and all the beautiful old terracotta roofs.
Yeah. I mean, it was so worth it to go there. But then the courtyard that Land's talking about, the central courtyard, was the peristyle. This is where you get to admire the exquisite buildings, including the vestibule, the bell tower, the Cathedral of Dominus, and Jupiter's Temple, and the Treasury. Now, that's also where our breakfast restaurant was. And that's an impressive square.
Yeah, it is.
And down in that courtyard, every day there was the Roman legionnaires.
Yeah, taking photos and pretending to fight each other and stuff. I do have a photo of that on episode 113 as well.
And then from there, you go to the Podrumi, which basically the basement. Hidden underneath the palace complex is a corridor that would have allowed Diocletian direct access to the port. These passageways are impressive and were used during the Game of Thrones filming.
Yeah, so we walk down there under the building. That's right, and you come out right on the promenade. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's quite deep.
Yeah, it is. And steep staircase down.
And they used to use that for storage as well.
Yeah.
And as you say, it goes out to the River.
Yeah.
But
promenade. Then also then our guide took us sort of around this little secret little way, and there was no one else there, and that's where he showed us where Diocletian would have sat and had his feast, and where all those big round windows were, and he showed us where you can get like a sneaky entrance into that restaurant. And then he took us around the back where there was a museum to the football team, and then
that's right,
and then also the statue on the back of the church. So I don't think we would have seen that if we explored on our own, because there was a couple of little sneaky little passages and that sort of stuff. And then we went down another passage and ended up right there at the Sphinx, which is part of that square, which is the oldest thing actually in that square, is the 3,500-year-old Sphinx sitting
it's
outside
an old
the church.
black granite Sphinx.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
This is just the sort of one area of the Diocletian's palace around the Silver and Golden Gate. Now, one thing he also told us was, the streets are quite narrow now, and he said they wouldn't have been like that. Like back in the day when Diocletian built this palace, they were grand, wide streets, and because it was so wide, so big, and he wanted to show how grand it was. But when sort of people who lived in the Mediterranean took over, they started to build narrower streets, and then they started to build houses on top of buildings that were already there as well. Now, the reason they narrow the streets is because it gets so hot in summer, and the narrower the streets, the more shadow there is, the cooler it is. So you're wandering around on the original sort of, oh my gosh, those cobblestones, they're actually quite big stones, and they're so smooth because of years and years and years of people walking on them. And our guide did say, be careful. He said, I see someone slip every day, and especially when it's wet. We did see a lady sort of slip over as well. So you've still got those slippery floors, but now you've got the shady streets that you can walk around. And then they built like little archways through buildings, and just so they could fit more people in as well, and live there more, not just as a big grand palace, but have a whole city functioning.
Well, it's also because for safety for invaders and that sort of thing. Yeah. So obviously if you're in the city, you're safe.
So it's sort of developed over the years. But the main part of the palace, as I said, the dining area, that's pretty well still as it was. But they've changed where the military garrison was, and but they still have the original squares. There was another bigger square too, where there was a big clock, wasn't there?
Yeah, but I want to just go back if I can.
Oh, sorry.
Because during the tour, we only was it Franco? Yeah. He pointed out the bell tower and the Cathedral of Dominus, and he pointed out Jupiter's Temple and the Treasury at the Split Cathedral, but you don't go inside.
No.
But he recommended that we do that because there is a small charge to get into those particular areas. Now, the actual ticket box is in the peristyle central courtyard there, so it's not far to go. Now, the actual bell tower is connected to the Cathedral of St. Dominus. Now, St. Dominus Cathedral is the oldest remaining Catholic cathedral in the world.
Well, what he said was it is the oldest still functioning Catholic cathedral that has had no renovations done. So it hasn't stopped being used at any time. It's It's been continually used.
It is dedicated to Split's patron saint, executed by Diocletian. When Christians were expelled, the cathedral was designed by Diocletian as his mausoleum. He was buried here, but the Christians when they returned, moved his body and replaced it with the bones of St. Dominus.
Okay.
And you can actually see the bones of St. Dominus. But the actual cathedral is pretty impressive.
It's not big, but it is impressive. And once again, I have photos of that if you click on the link to 113.
Okay, Jupiter's temple, which is part of it, is dedicated to the Roman god of Jupiter, but was later converted into the baptistry dedicated to John the Baptist. Outside the temple sits one of the oldest relics in Croatia,
which we just talked about.
Yeah, which is the granite sphinx. Yep. And the treasury at Split Cathedral is a small museum. Most of the artifacts are religious ones made of gold, including a gold bust of Diocletian.
Okay. Well, that's all sort of jam-packed into that one area, isn't it? And as I said, we did walk around some of the other areas. And then there's another square.
Yeah, you've got the People's Square.
Yeah, that was. I loved that one. That was really because it's much bigger and much more spread out, and there's lots of cafes there, and there's even like a little bar in one of the courtyards. They've turned a lot of the little courtyard areas into bars, which are really cute.
Well, we went into that cool bar. What do you remember what the name of that was?
Nope.
No. Okay. So
thanks for that.
Now, People's Square, located just past the western wall of the Diocletian Palace, at the exit of the Iron Gate. The old town is a 15th century centered by 3 Gothic arches, which are supported by 2 columns with capitals. The square is surrounded by 5 palaces. The Church of Our Lady of the Bell Tower is a small church, St. Theodore. The old town clock, separated with Roman numerals in 24 parts, unique to its 24 instead of 12 digits. And that was basically built around 15th, 16th century.
Yeah, and I've got a great photo of that square, but also that clock, because I was fascinated by it.
Now, there's the other main square there is the Republic Square.
Right.
Now, the Republic Square, that's where we had the smoothies at the Bobba's Cafe.
Yeah.
Now, the uniqueness of that square, it's the buildings are very, very Venetian.
Yes.
They have the pastel colours, and it's quite large. And so it's 3 sides. It's surrounded by 3 sides by the Venetian building, and then it opens onto the Adriatic.
Yeah, that was really pretty, wasn't it? And just to give you an idea too, like we've sort of been all over the place with this, but that's a bit like how the Diocletian's Palace is, the old town. They've got old bits and new bits and ancient bits, and then they've got, they're full of shops and restaurants. And I remember some friends of ours that we met, we came with Kevin. Kobe, they were trying to meet up with us, and they were trying to go back to some spot where they'd been, and they walked around and couldn't find it. It was just you can get quite not lost, but get lost as in a good way, wandering around and everywhere you turn, it's something new. And then all of a sudden you find yourself outside the gates, and there's more restaurants there. And we actually found a really nice little pizza burger place where opposite, because Lyle had to have his sunglasses fixed, and like anything outside the old town is about half the price of what's inside meal wise and drink wise as well. So, and it's not that far, obviously. There are sort of newer streets and some newer shops as well, and it just all fits together somehow. And
I've never seen so many sunglasses shops.
Yes, yeah,
they were everywhere.
So definitely recommend doing a walking tour and getting to know what the amazing history. Now, Diocletian, can we finish? Any more history on the palace? We done? Mm-hmm. Okay. So Diocletian basically retired and moved into his palace, and he spent the rest of his years gardening and enjoying the views of the ocean, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. So that was a big day, wasn't it? That night we did a wine tour. Now we're going to do a whole podcast on that because it was magical. It was sad. It's the only wine tour we've been on where we've both shed a tear and then ended up singing ABBA songs. So there's a whole lot of stuff happening in there that we want to share with you. So we're going to do that in the next podcast.
For me, it was the most unique and best wine tour I've ever been on.
Yeah. So so keep looking out for that. That'll be episode 114. But now we're back to 113. So as I said, go click on the link on the podcast description on the player you're listening on now, and it will take you to the one-page summary where there'll be maps, there's photos and links to the walking tour that we did, but also another tour that we did the next day. So one of the most popular things that people do when they're in Split is they do a boat tour, and we did a speedboat tour, and I think it was only a half-day tour, so because the full-day tours take you to the popular island Hvar, and we were actually going to stay at Hvar, in a couple of days' time, so we didn't want to go there. So you can do a full-day tour and visit Hvar for a few hours. So we did a speedboat tour, and we had 3 stops, and there were 10 people on our boat, I think, and it was a good number. So plenty of room, comfortable, lots of fresh air. It was great. And so we head off, and we have 3 stops. The first stop, we stopped at do you know the name of that little island?
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's Drivnik Valley.
Yeah. Now, so as you said, you catch the boat from the promenade there,
Yep.
and our boat left at 8:30 because then we had to be back for the afternoon tour. And so, we stopped at that first little spot, and there's like a lovely little beach area. It's idyllic. They've got a beach bar, and they've got all these flowing white curtains sort of hanging from the ceiling, and then you've got the rat and cane sort of fans slowly turning in the breeze, and you've got the stools sitting at the bar overlooking the water. It was pretty magical. And then on the beach here where outside they've got like the big sort of soft beanbag chairs, and then they've got nets sort of out over the water where you can sort of lie above the water and have a drink, and
Well, sort of lie. Well, actually, they're sort of in the water.
Well, sink down into the water when you lie in it. Yeah, that's right. And so you can imagine the photo opportunities going on there, and it was very, very glamorous, to be honest. So
sure, absolutely.
It was very early in the morning for us, so we just had a coffee there, and I went and had a swim, which was really, really nice. Once again, you got the pebble beaches, and so definitely take your water shoes with you or buy some when you're there. And we were, had a lovely stop there, and then we all hopped back on the boat. But you've got to realise there's lots of boats coming in and out, and these guys can manoeuvre boats like I've never seen before. You just think, oh my gosh, where's that boat going to go? Next thing is turn it around, got it ready, people are off. It's just, they're incredible.
But even I think the first one, they'd actually line the boats up beside each other.
Yeah, and you walk across them.
So you walk across them onto the
I've done that
jetty.
before.
Yeah,
so
it's obviously very popular and quite profitable for the
sure.
boat. That particular island, it was almost fairy tale.
Yeah, and then very, very, you can imagine it in a movie. And so back on the speedboat, and I just love that because you just the wind's in your hair. It's warm. You just everywhere you look, there's blue water or an island, and everyone's just enjoying themselves. And then we end up. The next spot was this place was just picturesque, the Blue Lagoon,
and that's on the same island but on the other side.
Yeah, and I just remember taking some videos of that and putting it on Instagram stories. So that's another place you can go and see all this. Is go to Beach Travel One on Instagram. Up the top, the story highlights. Click on Split, and you'll just see what I mean. Like the lagoon is iridescent blue, but then when you're close, the water is so clear you can see the bottom. There's 2 bars there, I think. There's the popular Havana Beach Bar, is it?
Haven Blue Lagoon.
Oh, Haven, yep.
Yeah, and that's got obviously restaurant and cocktail bar.
And the beautiful umbrellas and the beach chairs right there on the water. So we didn't go to that one. We found one that was just back off the beach a little bit, and once again, Mamma Mia-ish, wasn't it?
There was no one there.
The red geraniums and the big cypress pine trees hanging over the tables, and there's a little canteen area, and we just sort of sat there, and you could see the people in the water and the rock walls. It was just, once again, just so pretty.
Well, actually, I'm just trying to reimagine the Mamma Mia movie that we saw.
Yeah.
and it is so similar. So think about that, and you'll get the idea of the Blue Lagoon.
It was pretty nice. Although we were warned about sea urchins, so that's once again the water shoe thing. And there was another place in Croatia where you could just see them in the water. I didn't see any here. You will see them or feel them if you don't have shoes on. And unfortunately, we had to leave the old Blue Lagoon area. And wow. And you just, I don't know, you feel like you live in a luxury life, don't you? It's like floating around on the Blue Lagoon in the middle of Croatia. It was just beautiful. And then our last stop of the day was Trogir.
Trogir, Trogir. Preserved old town known for its mix of Renaissance, Baroque, and Romanesque buildings, lies on a small island connected to the mainland and the island of the island of Kovo by bridges.
So you can drive there, basically.
It's only 27k west of Split. The 13th century Cathedral of St. Lawrence houses the Renaissance Chapel of St. John and offers sweeping views from its bell tower. Since 1997, the historic centre of Trogir has been included in the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites for its Venetian architecture. Trogir is known for having a historic centre which is considered the most preserved medieval town in Central Europe.
Now, we had friends stay there. Now, we didn't have long enough there, as you know, and I think you need a couple of days, at least a full day in Trogir. The first thing you see when you sort of coming in on your boat is the big round tower of the wall, and it almost looks like Rapunzel would live up there, I think. And once again, it's got a promenade area, and I think it's where a lot of the South Croatia boats pull in as well. You can go into the old city area, so it just looked so pretty. And if you look at photos of Trogir, you just sort of think, oh, we need to go there for sure.
Like, we were so hungry, and we decided, we had to have something to eat. So by the time, and the place we had lunch was called Dionis, which is Dionis, and we just had a burger because we wanted something quick. And unfortunately, we just didn't have time to explore. But it looked absolutely beautiful.
We've only had not quite an hour in Trogir, and that's probably not enough for the sort of thing we like to do. I think some of the others went straight into the old town and had a wander around, bought a few little souvenir things, and maybe got a takeaway pizza and brought back to the boat, which is probably sensible. Once again, it's like out of a movie, and I'd be surprised if there hasn't been a movie filmed at Trogir.
I said to Leanne, we were only talking about it the other day, and I said, if we went back, I'd want to stay there for a couple of days because it was that beautiful. And again, we jagged the weather. That speedboat trip was fabulous. And it's like, and once you leave Trogir to go back to Split, it's not a long trip.
No, and you think, oh my gosh, there's a bridge there. We're going to get under that, and you do. It's really easy. You sort of under that bridge, and you just sort of sit there, and the breeze is, I'm on the back of the boat, the breeze is in my hair, and I'm just watching Trogir fade away in the background, and the water behind the boat, and just taking it all in, because that was a fabulous day. And I'm so glad we did a boat trip. And I think, once again, I'll put the link to the one we did, but you need to do a boat trip. You need to get out there on the water, and just as we did a half-day trip, because we were already going to go and stay on some of the bigger islands, but there'd be 10 different booths that you can choose from.
And look, to be honest, it was €60 for both of us.
No, each.
Oh, was it each? Okay, so you're talking about about $85 Australian for two of us for a half-day entertainment. But there's no food or drinks included. It's just the transportation.
But it's a speedboat.
And the other thing too is, because Split's surrounded by islands, the boat trips are pretty smooth.
Great.
It's fabulous. Look, I'd highly recommend it. It was great half day.
So we had a really full, basically 3.5 days in Split with our walking tour and our wine tour, which we're going to do next episode, and the Mahjong Forest Park. And honestly, we just so much to do, and we've got it all on the website, episode 113. I've got some information there and some links and lots of photos. So go and check that out while you're there, right?
Yeah.
Now, anything else you want to add before I ask the most important question?
Well, just basically, the recommended day tours from Split to Dar, which
Yep.
where we came from. You've got Trogier.
Yep.
You've got it's KRKA Waterfalls,
Yep, a bit
which
like-
is what Kevin Kobe did. They said it was great. Plavitsy Lakes, they say, well, I reckon that's a bit far. They say it's about a 12-hour tour, but you can do that. And obviously Var, which is the island that we went to next.
Yeah, it is.
Now, the most important question, what would that be, my Miss World?
Well, where was your favourite place to have a glass of wine?
My favourite glass of wine would have to be sitting on our balcony in the apartment overlooking the Silver Gate.
Right, I don't know why that took you so long to get there.
Because I was thinking about the Bath Row on the promenade and how beautiful that was.
Mm.
And then I also thought about the restaurant that we went to, that seafood restaurant, seafood wine restaurant.
Yeah.
What was that called?
Ikra.
How do you spell that?
IKRA.
Yeah. We had seafood ravioli.
Right. Now you're waffling.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So, but no, I'm going for the balcony.
Me too. I just can't go past sitting. But I'm going to be more specific. Having a glass of wine about 10 o'clock at night as the sky is that midnight blue and the bell tower on the church is lit up and the little dark birds are flying around just all through the sky. It was just so pretty. I love that.
Well, if you're going to add that bit, I'm going to say that my favourite part was sitting on the balcony with the backdrop of our undies all over the balcony waiting to be dried.
The Chinese laundry. Yeah, check
laundry.
that. Oh my God, that's on Instagram in the story highlights. There's some funny videos in that one. So definitely so happy we went to Split. Love Split. Would go back to Split.
Oh, look, and just where the ferry terminals are, and they have all those sail Croatia boats.
Yeah.
And they're not the sail boats. They're much
luxury,
more luxurious, and you just look at them and you go, hang on,
that looks good.
That looks good. So love Split. It was definitely a wow.
Yes, it was a wow. And make sure you check in for episode 114 where we talk about the wine trip that we did, where we went from tears to Mamma Mia.
Tears to cheers.
Wasn't there? There was a group, tears to fears to tears.
Something like that.
All right. All right. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Bye.